Before we start the story, I want to tell you that there is a new video on the Macabre channel talking about the two legends, Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. So go watch it and tell us your opinion about the story. It's starting. He's in Costa Rica, and we see Dr. Michael Morbius, who has a rare blood disease, uses crutches, and is working on something. He got off the plane with the research team. They're visiting a group of vampire bats to try to find a cure for his condition and see what happens. He calms down, goes to the food area, and when he reaches for the bats, there are many of them. You know, they attacked him, and then we go back 25 years. Back in time, Moaman. Your Uncle Michael is in the hospital, where he meets a friend named Lucian with the same disease. He jokingly calls him Milo. You get it, he calls him Milo. No. They stay together for a while and become friends. They remain close until one day your Uncle Milo gets sick and passes out. So Michael uses a pen to fix the device Milo is connected to. After that, the doctor responsible for Michael's case is very surprised because he fixed the device so easily. They say that he will end up in a special school because he is very talented, and so that his talent doesn't go to waste or get lost. Then your Uncle Michael leaves a letter for Milo saying he'll keep in touch about their situation. Don't worry, we saw your Uncle Milo arguing with kids who read the letter your Uncle Michael left. After that, the years pass, and we see Michael has grown up and become a renowned doctor. He gets honored and receives the Nobel Prize. Then we see him working at the hospital, and a doctor named Bancroft comes in. She says, "I need you, doctor, to talk about something if you don't mind me saying." Then he goes with her to enter her lab. They're conducting the experiment there with the serum that's supposed to cure him, and also cure people who have the same condition as him. They keep working on mixing his blood with bat blood and all that stuff. They've gathered a lot of bats in a big container, and then they start testing the serum. The experiment has been tested 117 times on subjects, and each time the subject dies, meaning 117 subjects have been killed. He then visits patient Anna to help her with her difficult life. Meanwhile, Dr. Bancroft tells him their experiment succeeded. Glory be to God. Uncle Michael visits the old hospital and meets Molly. He is surprised by how much Molly has grown, and they walk and chat before sitting in the garden. Uncle Michael tells Milo the treatment is now available. He's just starting it, and it's strong with hopefully no side effects. Then we visit Uncle Michael, and Bancroft is on a boat with all the people around him, and he kills them. Then we see him waking up from unconsciousness after he killed everyone around him, and he washes himself in front of the mirror. Some of them have really strong muscles. I want to use the phrase, "he's showing muscles." Then he goes to look for something. He killed everyone, even Dr. Bancroft. He later sees his actions on surveillance footage and is shocked. Did I really do all that, guys? He sends a distress call, which is received, prompting the officer and team to investigate. And we see that Uncle Milo is sitting and watching the news, knowing that Michael is on the ship and was running an experiment on it. So, what happened, guys? Uncle Michael walks to the hospital where Bancroft is and apologizes for what happened. He then goes to his lab to fix the mess that happened to him. He takes all the medicine, unsure if he'll collapse, and brings tools just in case to avoid transforming temporarily. Then we see him studying what's happening to him and that he now has incredible superpowers. Like his body's very fast and heals quickly, and when he enters the bats, he feels completely at home. They're totally normal, like they're brothers, and he feels like they're his siblings. You get it, if he were Batman, these would basically be his twin brothers. Then he says that he now has a radar-like ability, just like bats, and that he can pinpoint the exact location of anything at any time. He's also still discovering more of his abilities. We don't know, maybe he can fly and do flips, and honestly, God knows. Maybe it made him this strong and able to walk normally and even become stronger. He tells him, "Look, I want the prize," but the other replies, "Come on. This prize isn't for you. I'm not giving it to you." Until he yells at him, and then he turns on him aggressively, and of course, Uncle Milo gets really scared of him, and then he runs away from him. After that, sir, we see two officers who said their names were Strowett and Cordridges, and they were investigating the cases about the ship and the people who died on it. Then, sir, they go to question Dr. Banco. Let's just call her Banco because her name is too long, but sir, they don't get any useful information out of her. They keep talking in front of her, asking who she is, sharing thoughts, and saying Dr. Michael Morbius did this. Then we see a nurse running through the hospital because she feels like someone is following her. And sir, we see that she turns on all the lights, but then your man Morbius shows up, sir. He eats her, drinks her blood, or keeps sucking as if to drain her. Girl, whatever, the main thing is he acts. Then he's panicking in the hospital and hears they found the nurse dead in the hallway, shocked since he did it. And he wasn't even aware. Oh God, and I just told you, why did he take my daughter? Anyway, after that, he goes to pack his things, and as he's leaving, he runs into two officers. The two of them start questioning him until they're about to arrest him, but in the end, he's able to escape from them. After that, he keeps running and trying to get away, but eventually he gets caught, is put in jail, and they keep interrogating him in prison about what they did on the ship, and he's about to be transferred, but they let him out and leave him. He understands before he even tells them. Nothing is better, Yaman. Accept this blindness, as it will enlighten your mother. Later, he's placed in a detention center room, and Uncle Milo visits as his lawyer, assuring him of his belief in his innocence. We must escape by any means, so he leaves him a bag of blood in case he gets thirsty. After their meeting, he discovers the other person tricked him and took the source when leaving. And of course, Uncle Michael understands what happened. So he drinks the blood and transforms, and he's able to escape from prison while the police are already chasing him. After that, he hears from a distance the voice of his friend, Uncle Malo. He seems to sense things like the devil, figuring out his location the same way. He then meets the devil and discovers he already has the source just like him. The one who killed the nurse. Uncle Michael hears, "You killed the nurse, and I won't go back to being helpless again." Then they keep fighting each other until they fall into a mall, and after that the police come to arrest them. The police always come to arrest them, but in the end they never actually do. Uncle Milo says, thankfully, as I thought. He kills them before they kill him. Doesn't Uncle Michael want to stop what they're doing? Who is getting killed in the sewers? It's like they're just dogs in the streets. After Uncle Michael leaves, Uncle Milo and Rash try to beat him up, saying, "I'll get you with everything I've got." But Uncle Michael dodges their hits and handles it. He realizes that he has the ability that he can fly. Honestly, in the morning, he's not really focused and can't get it right, and he doesn't know how to do it well. But of course, he's able to escape from him once he realizes he can fly. And then the police are at the mall and investigating. He killed the officers, pursuing Milo's death, and Uncle Milo watches Dr. Banco. Later, she tries to escape in the street while officers and I watch her. Guys, she boards the bus, followed by your Uncle Michael, who's already wanted by the police. He tells her he didn't kill the nurse on purpose, that it was out of his control, and that Milo actually killed the nurse. We have to stop and not get tempted, and she shouldn't focus on him. Later, you'll understand. He explains what happened, says she'll handle it, and that he has something to do. Then he notices some kids nearby. They try to use counterfeit money, but fail. So he tracks them to their hideout and beats them up. He beats up the kid to scare everyone as a warning. I couldn't believe how cruel people can be, making others' lives miserable. Afterward, he uses devices to make an antidote for the poison he created. Then he sees that Uncle Milo is showing off dancing, dressing up, going out, and having a wild time. After that, he goes to a disco and flirts with a girl there. But then he notices that there's a shady guy who is with her and comes over to him. "If you want to hit on my girl, what's your problem?" And Uncle Milo doesn't do anything to him because he feels like something's not right. After that, he meets Aunt Banco in the lab and tells her that he wants to meet Michael because he definitely needs him. All this chaos that's happening and the police chasing and all that, he's trying to calm himself down and says, "Calm down, my heart, calm down." Rather than waiting, he reacts to the noise and speaks romantically. Uncle Cabello watches from the bird panel, but when he tries to act, the officer remains and inspects the surveillance cables. There's another person inside you, like Milo. What matters is that this person acts like Michael, and the news covers these 2 points on television. Milo hears the news, and Dr. Nicholas is with him. Who Dr. Nicholas is doesn't matter. Who is your Uncle Nicholas, anyway? He tries to stop or treat Milo and keeps talking to him until Milo transforms. "Come here, you son of a gun. Honestly, we're not going to make it." "Do you know what, Doctor?" After that, Uncle Michael and Banco delivered the antidote to the source. Thank God. Your Uncle Michael called Nicholas, found out what happened, and visited him. As Nicholas was dying, he told Michael to stop Milo. Michael listened. Michael is at Banco and wants to see himself at that time. He went to Banco and wants to see himself. Your Uncle Michael goes there and finds out she has died. What a terrible night. We can't keep up with any women tonight. What did I do, my daughters, to deserve this? Of course, your Uncle Michael gets angry, like I am now, grabs her arm, transforms, and hits your Uncle Milo. They have a big fight, and your Uncle Milo was about to kill Michael. That's it. But then his bats come and help Michael. You might ask why his bats help Michael. Well, it's like Batman came, and Batman sent help. Afterward, your Uncle Michael gets up, and they all beat up Milo together. Michael injects him with his serum, but Milo dies because your Uncle Batman was reckless. We weren't meant to kill him, just finish things, but he appears to be alive. Afterward, the police arrive, take the body, and begin investigating. After that, we see your Aunt Banco waking up, and Michael is flying away with her. At the end of the movie, you might ask, so how did your Aunt Banco survive? Well, that's something else entirely. Of course, she turned into a vampire, my friend. Because you saw Twilight, right? You saw Twilight. When the girl got bitten, she turned into a vampire. So she got bitten and turned into a vampire. Anyway, her name is Annie, and she works as a reporter investigating strange cases on her show. Her boss asks her to do an episode with Carlton, and this guy's the owner of a technology company. He owns and builds rockets that travel to space, similar to those we saw from Elon Musk. And on the same night, he wakes up, has a drink, sits at his girlfriend's laptop. But he's checking the basket she received on the occasion. Does his girlfriend work at the Life Foundation or the Life Organization, which he leads? That's Drake. And the message she mentions includes confidential info, claiming Drake is experimenting on humans. The next day, Uncle Eddie interviews Drake. In the middle of the conversation, he goes off topic from his question about the rockets and starts pressing about the experiments on humans. The man gets annoyed and kicks him out, while the boss becomes upset and questions his accusations. Well, honestly, where did all this talk come from? Honestly, it's just my own guts. There's no source for it, it's just my own guts. Because of his actions, he gets fired and is later seen in Malaysia. After the doctor gets the substance inside her, she acts abnormally and humiliates him. When the seller protests, she kills him and everyone else. The substance then moves to an old woman's body and continues. 6 months later, at the Life Corporation, they experiment with these substances and find that they bond with living creatures. After this discovery, Drake decides to test the substance on humans. Although the doctor objects, he threatens her with her children, saying, "Don't get involved with me. I didn't say anything. I have nothing to do with this." He goes home as if nothing happened and continues his nightly routine. He keeps job hunting, but no one hires him since Drake has already marked him. At Al Hayat Company, they begin their first human experiments on a young man named Ishaq. The man keeps filling his head with talk of sacrifice, heroism, and the like. He tells Fasha Kalu he has many souls and is done trying to do the right thing, so he won't help his girlfriend anymore. She has moved on with someone else, which he thinks is low. They argue, he calls her mean, and says his life is worse since she left. But she calls him a failure, so he leaves. In the end, he decides to join the Life Company. So he calls the doctor and tells her that he's going to help her, and he manages to get into the company with her help. He says, "I'm Venom." Eddie asks, "What do you want, Ms. Billalak? Tell me." Venom replies he wants to reach Drake's rocket. He can read his thoughts and warns, "Don't even think about anything. I know it all." And Dr. Danny, who is Annie's boyfriend, I swear her name is really competitive, calls her and tells her that Eddie has a heart condition, and he's going to die soon, and that there's a foreign object in his body that's eating him from the inside. But in the end, Venom saves him, comes out again, and they continue to enter the company. But then, they run into the police. So Venom comes out, and no one can handle him, and he beats them all at the same time. Your Aunt Annie is there, and she sees everything that's happening, and she gets scared of Eddie, and she asks him to go to the hospital to get treated for what he's going through, so he can get better. Then Annie and Danny talk, and Eddie leaves the room, and they're talking and not paying attention. Venom escapes through a ventilation shaft and enters a dog. Meanwhile, Drake's men find Eddie at the hospital, sedate him, and take him to Drake. The dog with Venom meets Annie, then Eddie is kidnapped. Drake questions him about Venom's location and gets angry, and they both seem to be on the same page, with their thoughts, and outside, your Uncle Eddie is about to be executed. Suddenly, a Venom-like woman appears, really cool, and Venom looks great on her. She saves Eddie and is revealed to be Annie. She kisses Eddie, transfers Venom to him, and then Uncle Drake appears. He wants to send the rocket to the Symbiote planet and bring them back to Earth to take over, like Eddie. But Venom and Eddie are unique, and Venom wants to stay because he loves Earth. Honestly, I never loved Annie. Anyway, they're stopping their plan. So your buddy Eddie starts, and there are only 5 minutes left before launch. Then your buddy Riot merges with Drake again, and they manage to stab Eddie in the chest. But before he dies, Venom reaches him and saves him, because the symbiote can heal its host like that. Then they go to stop Riot and Drake, blow up the rocket with Riot and Drake inside, and they die, stopping their plan. He died to save Eddie, but anyway. After a while, your buddy Eddie is talking to Danny, and he tells her that Venom died in the rocket fire. They sit and talk, and he asks about the kiss she gave him via Venom. So when Venom transferred to him, she tells him not to tell Danny, and she says, "Don't let Danny know anything." That's Rawa, not Danny. He tells her, "Don't worry, your secret is safe with me," and he leaves. Then we see Eddie talking to Venom, that he's still alive, but Venom will have to stay hidden and all that, and that's what they're agreeing on. Plus, they agree not to eat humans, so Venom is different from the bad ones. Eddie goes to the supermarket, and the criminal who robbed earlier appears. Eddie turns into Venom and eats his head. Then we see Eddie in the last scene to investigate. In one of the high-security prison cases, the prisoner is a psychopath who's been taken over by one of the symbiotes. He tells Eddie that when he gets out of prison, there will be a massacre in the story. The story begins in California around 1996 at St. Estes Correctional Facility. He goes with the psychopath Cletus Casady and his girlfriend, Aunt Frances. Even he has a girlfriend, while I don't even have a dog that cares about me. And since Uncle Eddie is a journalist, he's asked to go to Uncle Cletus to write about the crimes he committed. I mean, I still don't know what the crimes are, so we'll find out together, right? Uncle Eddie meets Cletus. There, Cletus asks Eddie to deliver a message through the press, and in return, he'll tell him whatever he wants. That's basically the deal. I mean, when he leaves, your Uncle Venom takes over and forces him to draw what he saw, causing conflict between Eddie and Venom. Besides Venom, he only eats human brains and chocolate. You might ask, why does he eat chocolate and human brains? But the important thing is, when they go down in the morning to the store and can't find any chocolate, of course your Uncle Venom gets upset. Naturally, your Uncle Venom gets annoyed and takes it personally. And he said he thought your aunt would return for Eddie. He believed any woman who said, let's get back together, and that they'd reunite. Honestly, none of that seems strange to me. When your aunt sees Eddie talking to himself, she realizes Venom is still alive and had told her. She thought Venom was dead. Eddie then gets a letter from Cletus, inviting him to his execution. Uncle Cletus then tells how he killed his grandmother. What? He pushed her down the stairs, or for example, threw a hairdryer into the bathtub while his mother was bathing, electrocuting her to death. That jerk is involved, along with your Aunt Francois, his beloved crush. Uncle Eddie visits Cletus in prison, where Cletus blames Eddie for his execution, saying, "You're the reason I'm being executed, not the state. I killed them, but it's your fault." Your Uncle Cletus provokes Eddie until even Uncle Venom gets angry and attacks Cletus, trashing the place over Eddie. The situation ends with Venom upset, leaving the house and Eddie, and, for good measure, breaking Eddie's motorcycle before he goes. Come on, you son of a being. And we go back to Cletus just a few moments before the execution is carried out, but man, you son of a... Your Uncle Eddie asks to call Anne and says, they must find your Uncle Venom no matter what. So your Aunt Anne goes to ask at the supermarket under your Uncle Eddie's house, and she discovers that Venom has possessed the body of the supermarket's owner, and Venom doesn't want to come out. No, sorry, you told me to play the drum when I leave, but with just a few words from whom? Meanwhile, your uncle is up to something. Cletus, Francis, and Carnage agreed to have a wedding and invite 3 people. Venom, since Carnage wants to kill him, Eddie, because Cletus wants to kill him, and the officer responsible for Francis losing her eye, whom she also wants to kill. The important thing is that all 3 of them are going to be killed today. On the other side, your Uncle Venom manages to free Eddie from prison, at the same time that Cletus is kidnapping. The officer Francis wants to kill isn't there when she tries to kidnap your Uncle Eddie. So, who does she find instead? She finds your Aunt Anne, so she takes her and turns everything upside down, anyone in her way. She sends a message with your Uncle Dan, who's supposed to be your aunt's fiancé. The important thing is the location of the church, where the wedding will take place, and there they kidnap the priest to marry them on the spot. But they are not going to kill him or anything, God knows. But your Uncle Venom arrives just before death and saves him, thank God, so the fight continues. Meanwhile, your Aunt Frances finally kills the policeman, but Carnage grabs your Aunt Anne to kill her in front of them. But Carnage is enough.
Thank God he saves her in time. See, son, Venom saved her. Spider-Man, can you do that?
The important thing is the girl, and then your Aunt Frances turns on Carnage and screams. And of course, that separates your Uncle Cletus from Carnage. Venom defeats him, then eats Cletus's brain. And also, I get that I'm hungry. Anyway, they all escape. But he notices that the cop is still alive, and it looks like he's been taken over by a symbiote, if you know what I mean. But on the other hand, Uncle Venom and Uncle Eddie decide to run away, because they're currently being chased. And they go to relax on an island by the beach, and while Uncle Venom and Uncle Eddie are watching television and chilling out. And Uncle Venom talks about his past, saying that he lived for millions of years in many universes. This starts with Knull, who is, God forgive me, God of the Void. For these blasphemies, we'll call him Lord of the Void. Uncle Knull is the creator. He's responsible for symbiotes like Venom and Carnage. Long ago, when Light invaded their kingdom, they betrayed him and imprisoned him in his kingdom. But now, we see Knull commanding his followers. He commands them to search the universe for the key to free him from his prison. Then Nala will seek revenge on all planets, especially the symbiotes, the ones who betrayed him, Prof. Later with Mina Eddie Broco, who was in the Marvel world. But then a portal opens and brings him back to the Sony world just like that. The director included the famous line. The important thing is that Eddie finds himself in a bar, so he makes himself an apple juice and watches the news. But then he finds out the news is talking about him. He's accused of murder and believed to be on the run after spending all that time in the Marvel world. At that point, Fadi can't go back to San Francisco. So he heads to New York to find any evidence that proves he's not the culprit. And while he's on the way, he hears someone screaming, so he heads toward the source of the sound to help. But when he enters the room, he discovers that the screams were actually from dogs that had been locked up by a gang for some unknown reason. Fadi transforms into Venom, fights the gang, and frees the dogs to help. Afterward, the gang is defeated. When Venom eats the criminals' brains, they leave the place while we see a giant monster from the followers of the Knull behind them. But it doesn't really notice them. Then we go back to the bar owner where Venom was, and secret agents from a secret organization come to him because Venom was spotted on the bar's cameras since they're spying on them. So, after searching the place for a while, they find a piece of Venom that fell off him just before it merges with the bar owner. The organization decides to take possession of that piece, and they take it back to their headquarters. Located beneath Area 51 in America, where they trade and explore unusual things like Venom. More accurately, the symbiotes, and they have someone with a symbiote imprisoned. He showed up earlier, around year 6, so I'll remind you during the recap, God willing. They're asking key questions like, what are these monsters that came to Earth? He says Knull sent these monsters to kill all symbiotes, targeting both humans and symbiotes. When Knull is freed, the entire universe will become emptiness and shadows. Before we continue, please subscribe, comment, and share. We really need it.
Yeah, and don't forget to also check out the Moacub channel. You'll find me there, your uncle, safe and sound. You'll find me and Sasa Hassan there, so go ahead and check out the Moacub channel as well. After finishing this video, go ahead and watch. Peace be upon you and God's mercy.
So what's the important thing here? And Venom was activated at that time on the back of a plane heading to New York. But this monster, it's as if he jumps from the ground all the way to the plane, mashallah. When Venom sees him, he gets really scared and pushes him toward the plane's engine to get shredded. At that moment, the monster gets shredded quickly by the engine's pressure. The monster really does get shredded, but when he lands on the ground, he starts to regenerate himself again, just like that. Even though he was just minced in front of me, right now, he was turned into minced meat. The important thing is, at that moment, Venom starts to explain to Eddie who this monster actually is and why he was attacking them. The most important thing, he tells him, is that the key the monster is looking for is actually with Venom, and that's why the monster's after them now. And the only way this key will obey is if either Eddie dies and leaves Venom alone, or Venom dies and leaves Eddie alone. Which one of the two is more dangerous? Venom was left alone. Then 3 sonic cats attacked, separating Venom from Eddie before attacking Venom again. Since they are basically an organization, they search for the symbiote and imprison it. But Venom escapes into the river, transforming into fish until he reunites with Eddie. Before the organization can catch them, Knull's monster attacks, allowing Venom and Eddie to grab their things and escape. Good for them. They have Knull's monster after them, along with Area 51 soldiers and the United States government. Because if you forgot, they are accused of killing him. Are you paying attention? Let's see what happens next. A family's in a truck driven by the husband, whose name is Martin. He's obsessed with conspiracies and went to explore Area 51, ending up in another country. On the way, he stops to rest and grills some food. After the commotion, Eddie approaches him and meets his family. And Finn is there as usual, constantly embarrassing Eddie and doing weird things like he always does. And Eddie asks Martin where he's going. So he tells him, Area 51, because his lifelong dream is to see an alien. Martin is surprised. Finn says, come on, Tama, let's show him, wanting to turn into an alien so he can see me. Eddie responds, shut up, you idiot. He rides with the family to the checkpoint boat. After a long trip, they reach Vegas, and Eddie gets out on his own. And since they're broke and only have $20, just $20. Do you know how little $20 is? And it turned out he was a real stand-up guy, supporting his family and working hard. So you're not just a great friend, you're also a real family man. The monster finds them and attacks, but when it can't, it turns back into Eddie. We realize it only sees them while transformed, so if it can't find what it wants, it leaves. But the problem is that the soldiers from Organization 51 also catch up to them. This time, they manage to successfully capture Venom and Eddie and take them back to the organization. Meanwhile, we notice something. The monster joins the organization. Eddie wakes up locked in a cell and talks to Venom. He gets no response and finds the person he's accused of killing alive in the cell with him, despite others' claims. It turns out that the organization hid him because he has a symbiote. Since Eddie was the last person to deal with him, they accused him of killing him in the first place. Since the organization knows about this key situation, they want to kill Eddie to prevent Knull from being freed. Their reasoning actually makes some sense. Then they shoot and kill Eddie. But we notice that the scientist working for the organization is sympathetic to the symbiotes, and that they're just running away. Nothing more, nothing less. She kept Venom hidden under her sleeve in case of emergencies. When this happened, she gave it to Eddie, healing his wounds and saving his life. And before Eddie goes down there, as Knull attacks, he tells the soldiers to escape and faces the monster. He orders the scientist to release all the symbiotes, and together with Venom, they fight Knull, knowing he'll destroy them if freed. All of them, actually. And at that moment, they all attack the monster together in a scene of epic teamwork. You know what I mean? The monster, larger than all of them combined, begins eating them one by one. The scientist then tells Eddie to escape with Venom to prevent Knull's release. And all of this is happening in front of who? In front of Martin and his family, who have already arrived at Area 51. They have a job to do. And they agreed on this battle, which is happening right in front of them. So at that moment, Biome comes, leaves the whole battle behind, and goes to greet them and have a couple of cups of tea with them for a while. When the tower collapsed and they nearly died, Venom and the other symbiotes saved them just in time. There's nothing the monsters can do. When destroyed, it rebuilds itself, screams, and summons all the monsters. To help, Venom and Eddie realize that one must sacrifice themselves for the key to die, as Nana starts interfering. So at that moment, he comes closer, wounded and missing himself, thinking he's the one who will do it. But then Venom comes, heals the wound, and tells him, "Let's go, one last time together." And while he's fighting the monsters, Eddie pulls Venom out of himself and sacrifices himself, letting the monsters eat him so that both of them don't have to die. So Venom dies, and only Eddie is left. But now he's become the shining hero. The key was destroyed, so Knull can't escape his prison, and the monsters are gone too. The mission you came for is basically over or no longer useful. That's what I mean. So all the symbiotes died except for one that was inside the scientist, giving her super speed like the Flash, but a bit more evil. In the final scene, Eddie wakes up after passing out, expecting Venom, but finds an army general instead. He tells him Venom is dead and all charges are dropped. And it seems like he's about to start something new. And at that moment, we see Eddie remembering his memories with Venom. He's sad because Venom is dead. But honestly, the song that's playing is kind of funny. I don't know why. I mean, I couldn't really feel Eddie's sadness, like he was just sitting under the stairs or something. Anyway, after that, we see in the post-credit scene that he says Venom is dead. And now he can take over and burn the whole universe if he wants. And with that, he says goodnight. This section begins in Russia, where prisoners are moved to a high-security prison. And among them is a person named Kraven, who enters the cell with another prisoner. The prisoner tells him that he doesn't like anyone sharing his cell, so Kraven tells him not to worry. It's just 3 days and then we're out of here. After that, he goes to the yard where people are lifting weights, but then two big guys come up to him and say something. This is a private area. No one else may work out with them, and they want that clear. They try to beat up Kraven, but he lifts them and the weights, easily defeating them. So at that point, half the gang turns to a gang called the Kirov Gang, and then they make the gang leader, whose name is Simon. Simon, okay, Simon. And that's it. Cherney becomes the dealer, a famous weapon with his arms found worldwide. Kraven clearly knows him, and when Simeon asks, "Who are you, Kraven?" he tells him he's the hunter who tracks criminals. Like Simeon, Sonya then jumped at both, then at Simeon and killed him. Meanwhile, Gary escapes prison by jumping and walking on walls like Spider-Man, knocking out any guards who block him and running until he gets out. But then he enters a snowstorm and gets lost. A wolf tries to attack him, but when Kraven looks at it, the wolf says, "We're done here, buddy. Wolves don't hurt each other," and leaves. Kraven escapes, and at that moment we see a private jet. Kraven jumps into it and escapes, while at the same time we see a fake body. Outside the prison, they believe he's dead and stop pursuing him. 16 years earlier at St. Michael's University in New York, we see. After that, two brothers named the Kravenov brothers appear. I'm not sure if I'm saying their name right, but let's move on. Their mother, Sergei, the first brother, and Dmitri, the second brother, are approached by the university director, who says their father, Nikolai, wants to take them. Nikolai soon arrives in his limousine, clearly their father. He's quite wealthy. While Sergei enjoys the car ride, Nikolai tells them their mother died. She committed suicide. They then ask, "Are we going to her funeral now? Or what's going on, Nikolai?" At that moment, he tells them, "No. Of course, the imposter isn't allowed at the funeral. I'm taking you because we're going somewhere else. We're hunting Zahar, a legendary lion we need to kill. since legend says he's a legend himself. They hunt with Kaya in northern Tanzania. Meanwhile, a grandmother and her granddaughter Calypso sit together while Calypso visits. She plays with tarot cards, thinking it's just a game. But her grandmother says they reveal hidden truths. She asks, what does the future hold? And something will rise in the wilderness to the limit? And she says at that moment she gives her a kind of serum that her family has inherited. And this serum, whoever takes it will heal from any wound, no matter what it is. And not just that, they'll come back even stronger than before. So at that time, she would take the serum and put it on the forehead. Anyway, let's get back to the story. Nikolai, Sergei, and Dmitri were out hunting. And we noticed that Nikolai loves Sergei more than Dmitri. That's because Dmitri's a bastard. No, really, that's not an insult. He actually is, because his mother was a prostitute. And Nikolai, his father, slept with her. So he ended up with him. What a messed up family. So while Nikolai was searching then? Haha, your name is Nikolai, not Marifa. While we watch, Nikolai looks for the Lion Tsar, who appears to Sergei and Dmitri. Sergei readies his weapon and tells Dmitri to cover him. But he doesn't want to shoot Tsar, who does show up. He was about to let him go, but Nikolai shoots Tsar from afar. Furious, Tsar attacks Sergei, as Nikolai keeps firing. Tsar then grabs Sergei and escapes, with Tsar's blood mixing into Sergei's wounds. After running for a while, Tsar leaves him somewhere. Then his dog finds him and sees from a distance how wounded he is, and that he's about to die. She approaches him and gives him a new dose of the serum. She gives it to Sergei and then calls Nikolai for help. Nikolai comes with his private plane and takes him to the nearest hospital. After a lot of effort, his heart stops. He should have died, but the serum brings him back to life. When the lion's blood mixes with his, it's clear something extraordinary has happened. Nikolai asks Sergei, why not kill Zolm? You had the chance. And at that moment, he keeps telling him that he's weak and keeps putting him down. Then he shows him the stuffed Tsar, after Nikolai managed to hunt and preserve it. That's when Sergei loses it and tells his father that it should have been him who died, not his mother. The next day, he goes to his room, decides to run away from his family, and while escaping out the window, his foot slips. He was about to break his leg like a cat, but in a split second, he twists and lands on his hand, just like a cat would, and he's totally fine. The next day, he says goodbye to his mother. He's going to Russia for some reason, while Sergei is there. At that time, he meets a herd of mountain goats, but he leaves them and goes running after a deer to hunt it, apparently. After a while, he returns to the place where the herd of goats was, and then he sees two hunters who killed the entire herd just to take their horns, leaving the rest of the goats behind as if it was nothing. Sergei, furious at their actions, attacks and kills them both while staring into the goat's eyes. Suddenly, the flashback ends and we return to Kraven, who doesn't realize that all of this was Sergei. Anyway, we come back, specifically after he finished his mission and successfully escaped from prison. He quickly kills people who hunt animals for their horns, suggesting he has an issue with horns. Anyway, he goes to a funeral where Calypso is present just to keep you in the loop. So, Sergei and Calypso haven't met since she gave him the serum in the first place. Calypso attends her friend's funeral, who was killed by Semyon Chorny. Kraven approaches her, revealing he's the boy she saved 16 years ago and can reclaim her friend's rights from Semyon Chorny. After a bit of digging, Calypso finds out that Sergei, or Kraven, is a hunter who hunts criminals, specifically those who have something to do with horns. I don't know, he seems to have a problem with horns or something. Calypso sits with Kraven and they quickly grow close, as if they've known each other forever. This is where their partnership begins. Since Calypso is a lawyer, she can identify criminals and inform Kraven, who then handles them and helps clean up the world. We'll see. After that, when Dmitri told her, it turns out that Nikolai's father is sitting there. But it turns out there's a plan to kidnap Nikolai. But Nikolai manages to save himself and beats up all the criminals, including the guests, just like that. So anyway, after that, he keeps boasting about his glory to Dmitri while sitting with him, because he wants the piano and doesn't care about anything else, unlike Sergei. Speaking of Sergei, at that time, Sergei goes to visit Dmitri for Dmitri's birthday, and Nikolai joins them too. They all sit together and drink until late. When Dmitri can't see straight, everyone goes to bed. Sergei then has nightmares about his old house and decides to sleep in the garden. In the morning, he returns to his room and finds it then. Dmitri isn't there on the bed, but there's blood on the bed. When he looks out the window, he sees a gang taking Dmitri with them in their car at that moment. Kraven quickly chases after them to save his brother, but despite a big pursuit with his friends, they escape. Kraven tells Calypso the criminals' descriptions so she can find them, then leaves. Nikolai calls to get information and learns they're demanding 20 million, with Dmitri 7 delivering the message. Kraven says they have the money, so it's fine. But Nikolai insists it's about prestige and power, not money, and agreeing would mean something different. They're holding them and torturing them, so at that moment, Kraven gives him a few harsh words and leaves him, and walks away while Calypso is calling him. And she gives him information about the kidnapper, that his name is Omar, and that he's in Turkey. But keep in mind that the person who gave them this information actually works with the kidnapper, and that's how they look. They call Kraven, who heads to northern Turkey and enters the gang's hideout where Dimitri is held. Kraven quickly defeats everyone and captures the gang leader. He asks him who hired him and why, and that's when he tells him that the one who hired him is a villain named Kraken, who has the ability to self-heal. He's a bit crazy and wanted to eliminate Kraven before Kraven could eliminate him. And now, since he confessed about them, he's going to kill them both. At that moment, we see Kraken holding Dimitri, telling him that his brother is a killer and that they wanted his brother. But when they went up to the apartment and didn't find his brother, they took him instead. So, brothers don't really care much about each other, it seems. And just before Kraken kills Dimitri, he finds out at that moment. Someone came up in the elevator. At first, he thinks it's Kraven, but it's actually someone super-powered, similar to Flash, but stronger. This person is obsessed with Kraven and wants to kill him as he did his mentor. The Kraken and the flashlight guy team up and head to Kraven's Siberian hideout. Kraken then calls Kraven saying he has his brother and will pardon him if he agrees to work with them. At that moment, Kraven hangs up as the flashlight guy and the Kraken arrive. They search for Kraven in the forest while he gets help from the animals. He hunts a soldier until the flashlight guy hits him with poison, causing hallucinations and gradual paralysis. Then he takes out all the guards as the flashlight guy arrives. He hit him, but before he could shoot him in the head, Collapsa appeared and injected poison into his head, finishing him off. Thankfully, she then gave him the remaining serum. Kraven is revived for a second time after KBMJ defeats the soldiers again. He fights Kraken, who transforms into a rhinoceros-like creature, and defeats him. They fight each other, but after a lot of intense fighting as expected, Kraven the Hunter wins and manages to come back victorious after a big adventure. In the last scene, we see Kraven, after he goes to Nikolai, and tells him that he knows Nikolai was the one who told Kraken who the Hunter was in the first place. He was the cause of everything, since Kraken's chances of winning were rising. It was Nikolai's idea, so he arranged for Kraven and Kraken to eliminate each other. Kraven then acknowledges his cleverness. He leaves him after taking his bullets, then lets a bear attack and tear him apart. Brutal. He told his brother Dimitri their father had died, so he was free to ruin his life as he wanted. We know Dimitri experimented on himself to match Kraven's strength, and he managed to succeed in it, and he has the ability to transform into any shape and change his voice to any sound. He tells him it's his time to rise, take his father's place in crime, and leave everything for Kraven at home. Each time Kraven returns, he finds a box with a jacket made from Zaro the lion's skin. Putting it on, Kraven becomes the iconic Kraven the Hunter. And that's it, the story's over. Honestly, the movie is really amazing. I have a question. Why does Sony always try to make Spider-Man's most famous villains look like heroes? Why do they always do that? Why do we always have to sympathize and believe there's no pure villain? That everyone has a reason? Why? This is just another generic villain. You made Venom, Kraven the Hunter, and Morbius look good? What did you make me out to be? What's happening? When will you show us? Am I good too? My house? My dog? Wow. Honestly, I missed you. I used to say the story begins with Peter Parker in No Way Home, since she sees on television that your Uncle Peter's identity was revealed. And of course, that really shocks her, oh my god. And it doesn't take long before the FBI comes and detains your Uncle Peter, and they start interrogating him. And it's not just Peter. They detained others as well. Uncle who? With your aunt, Mary Jane Peter's girlfriend, Ned, and all that. No one talks, and they ask for a lawyer since there's no specific charge. So Uncle Peter and Ned are released. You have Spider-Man and his friends. So we accept them. Adultery has a meaning in the word, and here Peter notices how much he has affected those around him. So he gets an idea that might fix all of this, which is to go meet Dr. Strange to help him. And indeed, Peter does that and meets Uncle Strange and talks to him, asking him to cast a spell to solve all his problems. So Dr. Strange decides to help him with a very dangerous spell. This spell is very dangerous. It can erase specific memories from everyone, and he agrees. There's also a ritual. She's at one of those universities, but since she's traveling, Peter rushes there in his Uncle Tony Stark's suit. He finds her car and tries to convince her, but suddenly gains control of something. And he saves the university president, who is amazed at that moment, and she tells them, "You're a hero, I swear you're a hero. I'll call the university so they accept you and your friends." He tells her, "No, I just want my friends." Then he says, "Shut up, you son of a... You and your friends, I swear to God, my word is final." But then suddenly, we're all surprised by the Green Goblin's bomb being thrown there, and the Green Goblin villain appears. But at that moment, Doctor Strange takes him and Dr. Octopus back to his sanctuary. And Doctor Strange starts to explain to Peter what happened and about the spell that went wrong. Rather than making the world forget Peter Parker, it began pulling in everyone from parallel universes who knows he's Spider-Man. And here, Doctor Strange assigns Peter the task of gathering those villains from the other universes and bringing them to him so he can send them back to their own worlds. Doctor Strange has already captured Lizard, and now Electro appears by the monument, recognizing Lizard. They are actually from the same world, and there is still one left. But Green Goblin, who is a bit calm now. We know sometimes he goes crazy and sometimes he calms down, so now he's Norman Osborn, the normal person, not the Goblin who is the Green Goblin. He breaks his mask and escapes. On the other side, Peter gets a call from Aunt May, and she tells him that one of those famous people is with her, to put it mildly. So Peter rushes over there to catch up with Aunt May and finds Norman there. Osborn sits, appears to understand, and asks for help. Peter agrees and leads him to the sanctuary. And here Aunt May notices that the police start attacking the place and shoot at Peter, so he has to escape. And that's how Aunt May ends up. She died in a scene that's sad, mainly because she's attractive, so I felt bad for her. Anyway, we see the media, which now considers Peter a criminal and knows nothing about him. On the other hand, we see that Ned and Mary Jane are at Ned's house waiting for Peter, and they can't reach him because Adam gave them a magic box, instructing them to activate it if he didn't arrive. Meanwhile, they try using Doctor Strange's ring to open portals. Ned, while using the portal, wishes to see Peter and, surprisingly, manages to open it, revealing a distant view of Peter, Spider-Man. Tabitnabi wants something else, so they start talking. Tobey Maguire's Peter mentions losing Uncle Ben, and recalls, he said, "With great power comes responsibility." Great, and your Uncle Peter, played by Andrew Garfield, discusses losing Gwen Stacy. They agree to team up against the villains, believing they'll succeed by cooperating. They start making the Green Goblin antidote, and discuss and prepare their plan together. Peter actually succeeds, and he saw with his own eyes the moment when Lizard was being cured. And we see this conversation for Miles Morales when they tell him that he thought Spider-Man was this nice, good guy. Of course he would be black, you know what I mean? Of course he would be black in that place. I mean, when it comes to Miles Morales, we don't see it. Peter, Tobey Maguire, and Dr. Octopus are talking when the Green Goblin suddenly arrives and attacks everyone. I'm Aunt May's father now, and he drops Mary Jane off the building. Thank God. Come on, your past mistakes are catching up with you. Here, Doctor Strange has no choice but to cast the spell he planned from the start and make everyone forget that Peter Parker's Spider-Man